I want to begin by thanking, obviously, Representative Block and Jaquith and John Rushi, the minority leader, for their leadership on this effort, a most important effort, and that's why we're having a proclamation today. And so, a proclamation from the Office of Governor. Whereas shaken baby syndrome is the #1 cause of death in child abuse cases involving children in their first year of life, and whereas shaken baby syndrome incidents are increasing in Idaho, and whereas 1,200 to 1,400 babies suffer from preventable abuse head trauma each year caused by shaken baby syndrome, whereas when an infant is shaken and the brain is injured, causing bleeding and swelling, shearing tissue, and possibly damage to the spinal cord. And these efforts can lead to brain damage, these effects, can lead to brain damage, seizures, mental retardation, spinal injury, paralysis, impaired use of limbs, and death. And whereas ongoing systematic education of parents before they leave the hospital is relatively inexpensive and is the only preventable strategy that has shown significant results. And whereas by taking responsibility for the prevention of shaken baby syndrome through education, Idahoans can be more aware of a whole as a whole, and therefore more likely to pass on these good habits to their new families and the community members. Whereas a cultural change needs to take place in the way society comprehends infant crying in early infancy and the danger of shaking a baby as a result of this frustration, as crying is the #1 trigger to shaking. Now, therefore, I, C.O. Butch Otter, Governor of the State of Idaho, do hereby proclaim April of 2011 to be Shaken Baby Syndrome Awareness in Idaho. In witness whereof, I have hereunto set my hand and caused to be affixed the Great Seal of the State of Idaho at the Capitol in Boise on this 30th day of March in the year of our Lord, 2011, of independence of the United States, 235th, and of the statehood of Idaho, 121st. Signed, C.O. Butch Otter, Governor of the State of Idaho, and attested thereto by Ben Usursa, Secretary of State. And so with that, I'll now turn the microphone over to Sharon, and then Wendy, and then John.
Thank you, Governor Otter. Babies are innocent and defenseless, said Brandy Whaley, the founder of Shaken Baby Prevention of Idaho. Her daughter, her baby daughter, Lauren, was badly injured as a result from being shaken by her daycare provider. This could have been prevented had she known that it's dangerous to shake babies. The only way to reduce the incidence of this unnecessary and preventable tragedy is through education, and that's what we're doing here today. Our legislative committee in the House of Representatives held a hearing about this issue. We heard from Brandy and from others some very compelling testimony about babies who had been shaken and did suffer severe injury. And we decided unanimously that this was something that we wanted to let people of Idaho know about so that we can prevent this from happening. Thank you.
Thank you, Sharon. This is quite a day for myself as well as for Brandy. Thank you so much, Governor, for, and thank you all of you for being here today. I met Brandy probably 2.5 years ago when actually Brandy's grandma came to me at an art event and said, would you please talk to my granddaughter, actually great-granddaughter, and talk to her about something that's happened in her life. And from then on, Brandy and I've been on quite a track, and this is really the culmination because now we have so many people to go out and talk about educating folks so this won't happen to them. I'm going to introduce Brandy. I just want to tell you that we do have bookmarks that have been brought to us by the Early Childhood Coordinating Council. We have a lot of these to put out for April to definitely tell us that this April is Shaken Baby Awareness Month, and we want to make sure that people are educated about this issue. With that, I'm going to introduce Brandy Whaley from Twin Falls. Thank you.
I want to start off by thanking all of you guys for being here. To have the passion that I have to educate people on shaken baby syndrome, be supported by all of you, it really means the world to me. And when Wendy asked me to speak here today, my mind kept going back to the day I found out my daughter was shaken. And I remember it just like it was yesterday, August 16th, 2007. I was in an empty hospital room, sitting on a couch next to a CARES doctor that I had just met, and that doctor is Dr. Sexton. And Dr. Sexton was explaining to me Lauren's injuries. He was kind of listing them. He said 2 broken ribs, fractured arm. She has bleeding on her brain. She has blood pooling in her spine. And then she has 200 to 300 hemorrhages in each eye. And I just remember I was uncontrollably crying. And every injury he listed, I was crying harder and harder. And so there I was in this empty hospital room next to a guy that I had just met. And I'm crying the hardest I've ever cried in my entire life. And I was thinking everything from, geez, I'm just this horrible mom. How could I have not seen the signs? How could I have put my daughter in the care of somebody that could do these horrible things? Thinking, is she going to live? Is she going to die? There's no way she can die. She's only 5.5 months old. I have not had enough time to spend with her. And I can honestly say that was the darkest hour of my life. And if Dr. Sexton or anybody in that moment would have told me, you know, Brandy, 3.5 years from now, your daughter is going to be doing amazing, and she's going to pull through this, and then you're going to be in Governor Otter's office signing a proclamation, you know, getting awareness out to everybody in Idaho on shaken baby, there's no way I would have believed that, because that was to tell me in my darkest hour that something positive could come out of this. There's no way I was going to believe you. And I pray every single night that my daughter is still alive and she's doing amazing. But I also pray that I've decided to try and take a positive turn and try and help other people by the story of my daughter. And so I think this resolution and proclamation is a great step for the state of Idaho. And not only that, but I think it's time. Like other people have said, it's on the rise in our state and it's on the rise in this whole country. And with all these efforts, I think we'll save a lot of babies' lives. And me as a mother of a shaken baby survivor, I did feel that there was a need that this state had an organization that solely focused on shaken baby syndrome, and that's why I decided to start the nonprofit organization Shaken Baby Prevention of Idaho. And that way this organization can focus on the shaken baby education, get it out there to everybody, high schools, hospitals, daycares, but also be a support system for the families that have gone through this, the families that unfortunately might have to go through it down the road. Because in those darkest hours, sitting next to Dr. Sexton, I felt so alone, and I didn't feel like anybody understood what I was going through. And so I hope that my organization will do that for people in the future and people that have been affected by this. Again, I want to thank you all for coming. Governor Otter, thank you so much for signing the proclamation. Sharon, thank you for co-sponsoring. And Wendy, you know I love you. I couldn't have done any of this stuff without you, and I just thank you for understanding my passion and being by my side and taking it to where we have. So with that being said, I want to turn it over to a few family members that have gone through the same thing I have. First will be Carla Covington from Idaho Falls, and then we'll have Jerry Morris from Boise. Thank you.
Hi, my name is Carla Covington. And this is a picture of my baby granddaughter, Hannah Isabel Covington. This picture was taken approximately 3 months prior to her death, November 26, 2008. Hannah died as the result of being violently shaken by a daycare provider. Her death was 100% preventable. The members of Hannah's family would like to thank Governor Otter and all of our elected officials and Brandy who have worked so hard to make shaken baby prevention a priority issue in Idaho. When Hannah died, my daughter Mary found a quote by John Dufresne that captured the emotion she was experiencing at that time. The death of a baby is like a stone cast into the stillness of a quiet pool. The concentric ripples of despair sweep out in all directions, affecting many, many people. Hannah's death has certainly caused the rippling effect of despair in our family, in Hannah's friends, and in the community she lived in. Hannah's death has left a gaping hole that can never be filled. And yet, we as her family stand hopeful. We believe that by taking this part in the first step in the education and prevention of shaken baby syndrome in Idaho, we are casting a new stone for Hannah, a stone that ripples safety for the children in Idaho. We hope that each and every person here and all those who learn of this proclamation will commit themselves to casting the stone of prevention into the pools of their families and communities. Once again, thank you, Governor Otter, Brandy, and our elected officials. Thank you.
My name is Jerry Morris. I'm here on behalf of my family, my granddaughter Liliana Smith, her mother Brianna, and her grandmother Tracy. Lily was shaken when she was 10 months old. Thank you, Representatives Jacquet and Block, the 61st Idaho Legislature, and Governor Otter for sponsoring, passing, and signing House Concurrent Resolution 5, promoting awareness of shaken baby syndrome. By passing this resolution, you've acknowledged the need for education about shaken baby syndrome. Each year, about 1,300 babies and young children are shaken in this country. 1/4 don't survive. Those that do are often left with severe injuries such as blindness, brain damage, paralysis, and seizures, and it doesn't have to happen. It only takes a moment to shake a baby, not long at all to cause injuries that a young child will never recover from or to end a young life. But shaken baby syndrome is 100% preventable. Education and information provide the best chance of reducing or eliminating shaken baby syndrome. This resolution and proclamation are a step towards that goal. If people were prepared for the possibility of being overwhelmed by a fussy baby and could recognize that frustration, could just put her down and walk away when they become frustrated, most instances of shaken baby syndrome would never happen. It's okay to let a baby cry. It's not okay to shake them.
Hi, my name is Michael Sexton. I'm a child abuse pediatrician working at St. Louis Children's Hospital. Over the last 4.5 years, I've helped care for 23 children whose injuries are compatible with abusive head trauma or shaken baby syndrome. Unfortunately, 5 of those children have died. When the children come to us, we do everything possible to help them, but we can't cure or fix what has happened in 10, 20, or 30 seconds of violence. We need to be working to prevent that type of violent reaction to whatever stimulus there was out there. Children should not ever be shaken. They are extremely vulnerable to any kind of physical injury, especially the young ones. We need to work at educating people and providing them with the opportunity to learn how to cope with children and their behaviors, which can be frustrating sometimes. But you need to, as was mentioned, say, no, it's okay to walk away. In 2010, we saw 8 children at St. Luke's with findings of shaken baby syndrome. That's twice the number we've seen in any year since I've been at CARES. So it is on the increase. We need to make sure people are aware of what's out there. Try and help as much as we can, irregardless of where we work or how we are employed. We need to provide that education and support to young families and their caregivers so this doesn't happen to any other children. Again, thank you to the governor and the legislative leaders and all the people here who are working so passionately to prevent these kind of injuries. Thank you.
Thanks. I'm a pediatrician, and like most general pediatricians, have seen more than my share of injured babies. And the educational efforts here is long past due. A baby who's fussy or is even perceived as being fussy, caregiver, whether it's a parent or in child care that has limited resources to cope, maybe as something as little as their car not starting that morning, and all combining in a bad way can make a momentary lapse have permanent, serious adverse effects. So educating both caregivers in the home and in child care, I think, is really important, and I applaud the sponsors of this, Wendy and Sharon, and was glad to offer what little help I could.
I'd like to introduce Robin Sanchez from the Children's Trust Fund.
Good afternoon. I'm very pleased to be representing the Idaho Children's Trust Fund at this event, and would like to thank the governor very much for the effort of doing this proclamation. And our trust fund is very much in support of the proclamation against to address shaken baby syndrome, because we believe also it is so preventable. And so I have here pinwheels that the trust fund is happy to be distributing throughout the state of Idaho, all the way from Coeur d'Alene to Driggs. And the pinwheels represent what we think is a happy childhood and a healthy childhood for all of our Idaho's children. And so our trust fund is an affiliate of the Child Abuse Prevention America organization, and we very much are involved in supporting strengthening families, and in doing so, that means we would prevent the need to even have issues of child abuse. So we have programming and support throughout the Idaho that we think will make a difference, and we thank the representatives here, and especially thank you, Governor, for the proclamation, and please accept our pinwheels and know that they'll be throughout the state in the month of April. Thank you.
I wanted to introduce Senator Dan Schmidt. Dan, do you just want to wave your hand? Dan was the sponsor for our legislation on the floor in the Senate. Thank you, Dan. And again, I wanted to talk about the bookmarks. On the back of them, it says, "When your baby cries," and it gives you some ideas about what you might do by taking the baby for a ride in the car, which is what I always did. Or give yourself a break, take some deep breaths. So I think these will be really helpful, and we hope to have them all over the state this month of April.